Well, let's talk about the Persian Gulf since you're bringing it up. I wasn't planning to talk about it, but since you insist. But it's pretty bad today. I'm going through the target list. It's ongoing, so people probably aware, if they've been watching earlier, that Iran's been under attack for hours now, for two hours. It all started today. Funny enough, I was going through it earlier. Iran attacked the attackers or HIMARS that were used in Kuwait to fire at Iran yesterday, which we talked about. Thank you for making the time yesterday. I know you were busy. So they fired at those missile systems that were used yesterday. And then we started getting reports of bombardment of Iran earlier today. It was very limited. And the Americans said, or the Iranians said, sorry, that they fired at American vessels. I think it was American Navy, inside the Iranian side of the Strait of Hormuz. And that was the end of it. So I thought it was going to be a quiet night. And then 2 hours ago, I think it's been 2 hours now, we start getting reports of bombardment across Iran. Heavy bombardment. The reports I have is unconfirmed, and the government said it didn't happen, but there's many people reporting explosions at Ahvaz International Airport. But the governor just said a few minutes ago that didn't happen. Bandar el-Masher, Sirik, Bandar Abbas, Shabahar, Bushehr, Kashem, Bandar Jask, Minab, Bandar Kangan, and Ahmad-Char. All of them are south, the same region as usual. But we started getting reports of explosions deeper into Iran. The most notable one is in Kondab, where some are saying that a nuclear facility, the Kondab nuclear facility that was attacked in 2025 and again in this war, the water reactor has been attacked this time again. The heavy water nuclear facility was struck again about 30 minutes ago. And while I'm speaking, just got a report of 6 explosions in Khorramshahr, which has been attacked before. And many towns in Kazakhstan province are being struck. The Shush, there's too many to list. I'll take too long just listing them. People are sending lists of regions being struck. 4 new towns just added to the list now. 2 of them are new. And Kuwait is firing more surface-to-surface missiles. America's firing from Kuwaiti territory. Very extensive bombardment today. A lot more than I expected. What's your take on it from the information we have so far? Is it surprising to you?
No. I mean, there's a couple of options that I talked about yesterday. We'd know by this time today if Trump was going to do one of his famous that he's done 5 times before, where they step up and then they back off and say, "Oh, well, talks are imminent." Now he still has 12 hours to do that just before the markets open tomorrow. There are already signs that the oil market's exploding upwards. Price of Brent has increased. It's up to about $80 a barrel now. That's on the futures market, so that doesn't actually dictate what the real price of oil is in the straits. But he's going to face pressure come tomorrow morning to come out and announce, we made a breakthrough. There's hope now. The Iranians have seen the error of their ways. They're now willing to negotiate. He's done that in the past, even though it wasn't true, but he's done that in the past, and they could conceivably do that again here. But if tomorrow morning by 8 a.m. or even 8:30, an hour before the markets open, Trump hasn't made some sort of conciliatory statement or announcement that there's a breakthrough or negotiations are going to continue, then this escalation will continue back and forth, and the United States is going to suffer far more damage to its military capabilities in the region than Iran will. In fact, look at what happened yesterday. So now Iran has targeted 2 air bases, the King Hassan Air Base and the Muwafiq al-Salti Air Base in Jordan, and they have delivered damage to those. They've hit the U.S. naval facility in Oman that, while they try to maintain good relations with Oman, they're not going to back down and allow Oman to play a double game where it hosts U.S. aircraft carriers, which are then used to carry out attacks on Iran. They hit Al Udeid Air Force Base in Qatar. They're hitting targets still in Bahrain, Kuwait. So far, they haven't launched any attacks on Saudi Arabia because apparently the Saudis aren't letting their airspace be used. They've also hit targets in UAE.
Are you sure there's The Iranians said that the UAE was not struck. So apparently there were missiles going to Oman that the UAE activated their alerts and helped intercept, unless you got some new information.
Yeah, well, that was information I saw about 10 hours ago. So maybe that was inaccurate. And, again, if UAE is not getting engaged, getting involved with this, they won't be hit. But if they are, they will be hit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if both Iran, the UAE and Saudi get struck, because this is. I'm going to read out a pro-Iranian OSINT account, did a summary of it. He just posted it. It is a bit annoying. Okay. It is a bit annoying and redundant to cover every specific city being struck because there's so many of them. Right now, basically, most cities in Kazakhstan are being targeted. Outskirts, not city centers. And before that, the southern coast of Iran. It seems to me that most of the targets are presumed drone-launched locations or anything that remotely resembles a military target, warehouses, IRGC training grounds, comms towers, communication towers. What's noteworthy is that American strikes on Iran in recent days and weeks have been all over the place and very inaccurate. They have very clearly ran out of their real target bank. Most of the areas being hit now are empty or mostly irrelevant. At most, they are targeting places they suspect of having some kind of activity, but they're not acting on updated intel anymore. The strikes are pray and spray. That's an analysis of an account called Middle East Spectator. You might know him. He's a pretty big account. His observation of what we're seeing right now.
Well, that tracks with what I've heard from U.S. sources.
So what happens now, Larry? Before we go into the news of the day, there's a lot today. We are seeing those heavy strikes. Obviously, Iran will retaliate. So probably the first question is they dragged Qatar, Bahrain, and Oman. There was a strike on Oman as well, but it wasn't Omani infrastructure. It was one U.S. military target in Oman. Did you see that yesterday? You saw that as well?
Remember, I just mentioned that earlier. They hit the naval facility. They hit the naval facility there in Oman.
Okay, I can ask you about that one then. What do you make of that? The fact that a naval facility in Iran was struck.
Well, I mean, they're going after any military capability the U.S. has that's been used to attack Iran. The United States is going in and Iran's going in and taking them out. This ain't complicated. This is not, some sort of advanced mathematics course. It's just, Iran's made clear what its position is, and it's up to the United States to, pay attention. If the United States keeps these attacks up, Iran's going to keep the attacks up.
How far do you think this will escalate before a side blinks?
We'll know tomorrow morning. If there is some conciliatory message from Donald Trump, then there will be, it'll be another temporary lull. This will not be the end of this. These will continue. But the point is, it doesn't get the Strait of Hormuz open. The United States needs the Strait of Hormuz open from a strategic standpoint, and that's not happening. And the longer it stays shut like this, the more damage to the U.S. economy.
So I just got a piece of news on the heavy water reactor that was struck in Kondab or outside Kondab. It's the Iraq heavy water reactor. This reactor, as I said earlier, has been struck, as I said earlier, 2025, 2026. So someone's saying it's not functional right now. So for it to be struck, it's a symbolic strike. But if it is a symbolic strike, that will be more of a message being sent. Could the U.S. escalate this to start striking energy infrastructure? Do you think that's a possibility that they're considering right now?
Well, I think yes. Yeah, I think they may very well consider it. And at that point, if they start striking Iranian energy infrastructure, those states in the Gulf that are allowing themselves to be used for these strikes, they will have their energy infrastructure struck. And now it is summer, and that is trouble.
As I said, I'll come stay at your place as soon as that happens, Larry.
Yeah.
The New York Times just reported just now A U.S. official told the New York Times that today, the strikes today that are ongoing now, will be bigger than all other attacks so far against Iran since the ceasefire.
Yeah, every day's bigger. Oh, this is really big. Tomorrow's going to be really bigger. And then even bigger. Of course, they're operating with a limited supply of missiles, so at some point they're going to run out, and then they're going to have to scale back.
But the target list is a lot more vast this time. There's another report now, unconfirmed. I'll confirm now.
Wait. Target list now is more vast than what?
Than all strikes since the ceasefire.
It's more, okay. Yeah, because this isn't even approaching what was done during the 40-day war.
Not at all. No.
They haven't even gone that far. So,
exactly.
This is a show of force, but it has limited effect.
Well, just to kind of give you a disclaimer, my position, I don't think this is a return to a full-blown war. Because I was telling one of my other guests who was talking about this, Mario, we're back into war. I was saying to them, like, look, these attacks are more than I expected. I didn't expect us to be here by now, but much less than what there was during the war. So that's my position as well. But they're a lot more, they're escalating in quicker than at least I expected. There's like, for example, now the Bahrain refinery has been struck and there's a power outage through that city. That's energy infrastructure being struck 2 days in a row. That's something I did not expect. A nuclear facility, symbolic or not, was struck as well in the last hour. Land-to-land missiles being fired in the last 2 days. Now, again, compared to the war, it's not far from it. So there's a lot of things missing now that they were there during the war. Number one, in the war, the ordnance being dropped were a lot more. Number two, Iran was retaliating on a bigger scale across the entire Gulf. And number three, Israel was involved during the war. Now Israel's not involved, at least based on what we have, the information we have so far. So very different to where we were during the war, but a lot worse than where we were just 4 days ago and in the last 3 months.
Well, as Trump said, ceasefire is dead. Ceasefire is over, so they're going to continue until they come back and request a ceasefire with Iran. Now, whether Iran will be willing to concede this time, to acquiesce, I doubt it.
But that's the worry that I have, because I don't think the intention of the Trump administration is for a full-blown war again. But the problem is a miscalculation, or them miscalculating what Iran wants. Now, obviously, I don't have access to classified information to know what Iran's position or capabilities are. But what if that's miscalculated? The whole war has been a miscalculation. What if there's another miscalculation now? And they assume Iran would stop retaliating once the Americans stop attacking them. So let's say the Americans decide, look, today's the last day of the war. Let's degrade them as much as possible, and then we go back to diplomacy tomorrow. But the problem that I'm worried about is what if Iran's like, you know what, screw this. And those that are already against the MOU gain more traction and they start calling the shots. And suddenly we have an Iran that keeps bombing American targets or the Gulf for the next month, proactively bombing the Gulf, not reactively to American bombing. That's the scenario that worries me.
Yeah, well, I think it's a very likely scenario. The United States, the problem the United States has, it's got limited armaments. It doesn't have an unlimited. If they had an unlimited supply of Tomahawks and JASSMs, yeah, they could sustain this indefinitely. But they don't have that. And now they've got the issue of the shortage of diesel and aviation fuel that is going to start hitting markets. Because
there's a solution. Sorry, you cut out.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
What's the solution?
Yeah, there's a solution for the Tomahawk missile depletion. You didn't hear?
No, I'm sorry, I missed that.
That's right. Zelensky's going to start producing them. So by next week, he'll be producing enough of them for Iran, for the war.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's right. I'm sure he's cut a deal. He's cut a deal with China to get his hands on those 18 different rare earth minerals that are used in the production of the Tomahawk. Yeah, I'm sure that'll happen. Now, don't hold your breath though. You'll turn blue and pass out.
I heard the production targets will be 500 a week by next week.
And unicorns will be flying out of his ass too. So.
But there we go. Oh, that's Israel just struck Gaza Strip. But yeah, of course, you were just saying the other point on the fuel shortages as well in the US. Which is why
Right.
it's just what's happening right now is a bizarre thing. It's just such a, and I've said this to you yesterday, it's just such a gamble by the U.S. administration that it's just a bizarre
Yeah.
gamble.
Well, it's not it's certainly not rational. That's for sure. And you can make the case that it's actually irrational.
So while I get more updates on the strikes now, and I'll mention the updates as they come in on the strikes on the Iran that are ongoing. What do you make of an interesting development? What I woke up to this morning is that the Iranians initiated the attack today by striking the HIMARS missile system based in Kuwait that the Americans used to strike Iran.
Why do you say they initiated it? They were reacting to what happened yesterday.
Yeah, no, it's a reaction, obviously, to the attack from yesterday. But
they didn't quote initiate it. They're just following up on what was done to them. It's not like there was a set time said, okay, you can only attack between these hours, and then anything done after that's a new attack.
Yeah, 100%. What I meant by it is that this is the first time since the ceasefire that, because the back and forth since the ceasefire has been the Iranians attack a ship, the Americans attack Iran, and Iran retaliates against the Gulf. That would be the end of it. And we've seen that happen again and again. You compare it to Groundhog Day. Now, the interesting one today when they struck the missile system in Kuwait, maybe I'm looking too much into it. I know it's a reaction to that missile system, that exact missile system being used against Iran, which shows Iran's capabilities in terms of targeting and intelligence that they have. The targeting, I'm assuming using the Chinese radar. But this is I'm not sure if this is a fundamental change in the rules of engagement, where the Iranians might strike what they see as threats or might retaliate maybe 2-3 days later, different to what we've seen in the last 3 months. What I'm noticing in the last 72 hours is a lot of differences on both sides. Iran striking more Gulf countries, the attack on the HIMARS system in Kuwait now today, and the Americans striking, first time a few days ago, they retaliated for 2 or 3 days after Iran attacked the ships. So all these different things is a big deviation from the back and forth that we've been seeing for months. Which for me worries me that this is how things get out of control.
So why is Iran striking the Gulf states? Just because it doesn't like the Gulf states, or because the Gulf states are allowing their territory to be used to strike Iran? It's real simple, not complicated. As long as the United States continues to use those states as a proxy, and they allow themselves to be manipulated in that way, they're going to continue to get hit.
So I've got a statement. I didn't read it, but I saved it for our discussion. The IRGC responds to the attack against the Duqm port in Oman that you were just mentioning earlier. Quote, in the third phase of our response to the aggression of the child-killing American army, the IRGC Airspace Force destroyed the logistical support center of the U.S. Navy ships and the refueling platforms of aircraft carriers in the port of Duqm, Oman, with a heavy surprise attack. Victories only from Allah. Okay, there's nothing big to the statement. Just talking about the target there. We've got an Iranian statement, 2 statements from Iran today, one from Ghalibaf. Quote, the era of one-sided deals is over. We told you, keep your word or pay the price. Reality is knocking. This is Ghalibaf. And then the advisor to the Supreme Leader, Rezai, who he's a pretty senior person that we quote a lot. He said that revenge for the killing of the Supreme Leader is a serious and actionable matter. Okay, shit, I didn't see that one. And that if leader targeting becomes a pattern, no country will have security. He said Trump and Netanyahu have crossed Iran's red lines. Quote, this act must be met with decisive and proportionate punishment. The path of revenge will be followed. Yep.
Sounds like what they're doing. Yeah, I mean, they're not this time, in contrast to what we saw some of the previous days, they're not waiting to see what has been hit. Iran's responding pretty quickly these days.
Yeah, I just got a report now of power outages in Behbahan. If you could show that where it is on the map, please, Stephanie, for the audience, that'd be good. So we're getting initial reports of power outages there. I hope they're not striking energy infrastructure. And that's down, just to be clear, that's down south, I think in the Kazakhstan province as well, where it's been struck a lot. And now, obviously, power outages happen during airstrikes, sometimes unintentionally. If certain locations were hit, it depends how vast the power outage is. So I don't have that information, but that was just struck there. So before I go through the news of the day, okay, that's it. So just going back to the news of the day, there's a report here by Farish News. They said Qatar and Saudi assisted U.S. strikes on Iran despite publicly condemning Tehran's missile attacks. U.S. AWACS aircraft operating from Saudi and more than 20 U.S. refueling aircraft at Qatar's Al Udeid air base. So this is Farish News saying Qatar and Saudi. Now, Qatar was already struck heavily yesterday. Were part of the attacks by the U.S. So if that's true, then we shouldn't be too surprised if Saudi's added to the target list, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
The Strait of Hormuz, your favorite news of the day.
Don't you know it's wide open for business right now? That's what Donald Trump said. Must be true. If you checked it out on vesselfinder.com or marinetraffic.com, that seems to show a completely different picture. In fact, the only two ships operating there are U.S. pleasure craft, a yacht and something defined as a U.S. pleasure craft. You want to make any bet that those are being used for intel collection? And Iran's message to Oman means those ships may be in danger.
So you can see here the Omani side has been completely shut. Now, obviously, this shows the ships with the AIS transponders on. But even AIS transponders off, I wouldn't expect many in the midst of the bombing on both sides. So that's in the last, let me see, this is in the last 24 hours. So since yesterday morning till today morning. So this is a few hours old, but I'm assuming it's even worse now considering this is getting worse. This is a summary from HFI Research. I think it's the summary from them. Well, it looks like the strait is closed again. IRGC fired at two ships. That was obviously yesterday. The U.S. tried to get another group of tankers in, and two were hit. And there's been some ships that were planning to go through and did not eventually go through. Now, in terms of the joke you made earlier where Trump said it's completely open, well, that's what happened in the last 24 hours. CENTCOM says the Strait of Hormuz is open and that traffic is flowing and Iran does not control the straits. That was this morning. The Persian Gulf Strait Authority then put out a statement saying transiting through Hormuz is currently not possible. When the strait eventually reopens, the only way to obtain valid permits is through the PGSA. Then CENTCOM replied saying, claim the IRGC recently said on TV that no foreign vessels may pass through Hormuz without being identified, tracked, and monitored by Iranian forces. Fact, Iran does not control the Strait of Hormuz. It remains an international waterway. U.S. forces are positioned and prepared to keep it that way. And then UK MTO put out
where are they on that map? Show me a U.S. force. Non-existent. I mean, these kinds of lies is remarkable because it's not, it's one thing if you don't actually have live feed covered. We got it from two different feeds, Vessel Finder and marinetraffic.com. It's, what the U.S. is saying is not true, objectively. Not a matter of opinion. It's an objective fact.
Well, I've got that your friends at UK MTO advised that the southern route through the Strait of Hormuz remains available despite Iran's proclamation that the strait is closed.
Yeah,
the route has been expanded. The route has been expanded. So that was this morning.
Yeah, trust us, bro. It's open, man. And then say, hey, let's get one of those UK MTO personnel. Let them sell on one of those ships. I think you gave them that option. Oh, well, no, I get seasick. Okay.
So this makes your point earlier that we got the Iranians saying it's closed, the Americans saying it's open. Obviously, the tracking, the satellite trackers, the two that you mentioned, I'm sure that barely any ships are going through. It's a significant drop, but just a handful of ships mainly going through the Iranian side.
So who's telling the truth, Iran or the United States?
Oh, in my view, the Strait of Hormuz is as close to being closed as possible. and barely any traffic is going through.
Yeah,
So the
so
Iranians are the ones that are factually
Iranians are telling the truth. The only ones
in this
that have been
case, yeah, for
consistent,
sure.
well, not in just this case, consistently throughout this, Iran's been telling the truth. The United States has been lying.
Do you think, on that point, I didn't put it as a note to discuss, but I'm glad you reminded me of it accidentally. Do you think the Iranian claim, there was a claim today that went viral that there's 3 soldiers in Kuwait that got killed in that strike? CENTCOM just put out a statement 2 hours ago saying that claim Iran says blah, blah, blah. Fact, that's not the case. Just one of those typical tweets.
I don't know. I'm just saying based on the U.S. track record, the U.S. track record is it's lying more often than it's telling the truth.
If
So
servicemen...
remember when that KC-135 quote crashed? It didn't crash; it was shot down. U.S. lied about that
the pilot
during the first 40 days. During the first 40 days.
Is that the two that crashed?
No, the one that crashed, one that got his tail peppered with the shrapnel.
Yeah.
And they claimed that was quote an accident or something. It wasn't an accident; it was shot down.
I thought it hit birds. The shrapnel was birds.
Right. Yeah, that's
or
what
bees.
happened.
Or bees.
Butterflies. Those
fairies.
Yeah, those Persian Gulf butterflies are badass, man.
Or it must be that unicorn you were talking about earlier that struck it by accident.
It was the flying unicorn. That's what did.
Exactly.
The horn got in there, messed it up.
I got you. There you go. We got it. The Cypriot flagged container ship that was struck yesterday. There were reports that the mariners one of them was missing. So those reports, it seems all of them have been rescued and they've been escorted and they're all safe. And there's been reports of that vessel sinking. I don't know if you saw that. I don't know.
I heard that it sunk, but again, no independent confirmation.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know if that's UKMTO that confirmed that it sunk. The maritime security is severe. Yeah, there's been reports, so it's not confirmed. But yeah, it's a UAE managed with Indian workers. That's what the GFC Galaxy ship is. I think it's got a Cypriot flag. So I don't know why it's here. Isn't that the Cypriot one? Yeah, Cypriot flagged, UAE managed. I don't know how these work. But anyway, there's been reports of that having sunk. It was a pretty significant attack. So anyway, that's on the Strait of Hormuz. I think we've covered that pretty well. Let me see while we're speaking if there's more updates on the explosions. We got more reports of power outages. Shit, that's not a good sign. But the scale of the disruption has been significantly exaggerated. The power outages are limited to relatively small areas within a handful of districts. So it's not a massive power outage. It seems that an electrical substation was damaged, resulting in a limited power outage. Now, just to be clear, because I know a lot of people jump to conclusions that this is the energy infrastructure being struck. That's a general assumption a lot of people make. When there's power outages, they do happen during strikes. So it's not something I learned throughout this war. It doesn't always immediately indicate that energy infrastructure is being targeted by the US. But we've had more indications than ever since the ceasefire that there's been limited strikes on energy infrastructure as well as a nuclear facility. I'm saying it's limited, so I'm not sure whether a message is being sent by the Americans to the Iranians that this could be the next as part of the escalation ladder, or whether it was accidental, or whether they're just not confirmed and they're untrue. But so that's just a quick update on the latest developments. All right, so let's go to. There was one other unconfirmed report. I give it likelihood very low, Larry, but I'm going to read it anyway. It came from one of the Austin accounts. I'd say likelihood 5-10%, which is extremely low, probably 5%. But there's one Austin account that was reporting that. Let me read out exactly what he says because I don't want to paraphrase something I don't think is true. Unconfirmed reports indicate, and I know you won't agree with this one, but I'll read it anyway for the sake of sharing the information with the audience. Unconfirmed reports indicate the potential involvement of Pakistani military assets in the recent attack on Iran. Although Pakistan does not maintain a sovereign base in the Middle East, approximately 16,000 Pakistani soldiers and hundreds of fighter jets are currently stationed at King Abdulaziz base in Saudi, pursuant to a defense pact between the two nations. Now, the reasons I don't think this is true is, number one, obviously Pakistan has a very good relationship with Iran. Number two, there's no reason to. even when Saudi was struck, they didn't get involved. And number three, there's no reports of Saudi being struck. So it's a very bizarre report, but I'm reading it because the source is usually a good one, but they say it's unconfirmed. So, but I thought I'd mention it. And I'm guessing you'd agree it's highly unlikely.
Oh, no, it's not just highly unlikely. It's impossible. Unless, Hassan Munir has put his very reputation on the line with Iran. And so Iran has been very willing to listen to the Pakistanis and try to work with them. So, but the notion that Pakistan's going to start attacking Iran, not going to happen.